It's draft week. I can't believe it's here. Matty Kiwum joined me here tonight, today, tomorrow, this week. Butchered the opening. Don't care. Draft week, baby. The draft ranking show here. We're going to talk through team tendencies for all 32 teams in the NFL draft. We're going to do it. We're going to try to do it in under 60 minutes. So 32, 60. That means, Maddie, we got less than 2 minutes per pick to kind of just talk through these team tendencies, courtesy of the NFL Draft IQ tool over at NFL.com. Shout out to Mike Bann for creating this majestic pant stiffening tool over there. Maddie Kim, how you doing?
I mean, it's the best, dude. For me, I love baseball. It's NBA playoffs. It's the NFL draft, and it's WrestleMania weekend. Well, by the time you catch this, you'll already know the results of the matches. But we're recording over the weekend. I am jazzed up, ready to rock and roll. Thursday, Cody can't come fast enough.
Is John Cena beating Cody Rhodes?
You will know the result by the time you see this, but yes, I believe he does.
Okay. All right, cool. That's all I need to know. He'll be the 17-timer, greatest of all time.
17-timer. He'll pass Ric Flair. He'll have the most titles held in WWEF, any of those industry history. It's big time weekend.
They gotta bury the allure of Ric Flair being the greatest champion of all time. It's got to be John Cena now. It just has to be. They can't. The Ric Flair thing. The ship has sailed. Maybe people are listening and they're like, you're an idiot because Cody Rhodes won, but that was just always been my theory, is that it was always inevitable when Cena won 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 when we were growing, not when we were growing up, but over the course of the last 8 years. I was like, this is too easy. This is obvious what's going to happen here. Anyway, NFL Draft IQ. We're going to start out with the first overall pick, the Tennessee Titans, Mike Borgonzi. So I'm not going to share anything on the screen, but we're just going to talk through this. There's a great tool, NFL.com, Draft IQ, and it lays out a lot of phenomenal stats for all these teams. Borgonzi's in his first season as the general manager of the Tennessee Titans. Previously spent the last 16 seasons with the Chiefs under Brent Veach. Dave Ziegler's the assistant GM. He spent the last few years with the Raiders, longtime member of the New England Patriots. In January's media interviews, Borgonzi expressed that he preferred team building strategy to be draft and develop, calling draft picks the biggest form of currency, which to my mind, just if they're going to do this thing this way, it's a long build, something that we've obviously seen the Titans fire coach, fire GM, fire coach, fire GM the last 4 years. They're taking the approach of like, hey, we got to get this thing right today, and we need to build it. Think about how the Packers have been for eternity. It's always been draft and develop and hardly spend anything in free agency unless you absolutely have to. Like the Julius Pepper signing 8 years ago was like so big for the Packers because they never spent.
Right.
It was always draft and develop, draft and develop. What are your thoughts? I know Cam Ward's the pick here, but what are your thoughts quickly on Borgonzi and company?
It feels like they have the right pieces in place to build the team that they want to see built. I think this is a franchise that could have a substantial jump in the win-loss record just by picking a guy like Cam Ward, allowing him to develop under Callahan, under that system, with that offense, as he gets more comfortable as the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. I think this is going to be a big draft, obviously, for the Titans, but if they hit with Cam Ward, this is going to be the defining draft for Brian Callahan, for Mike Borgonzi, for the whole Tennessee organization.
I love it. All right. Number 2 overall is going to be the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, Andrew Berry, the general manager there, and Kevin Stefanski is the head coach. After not making a first-round pick in each of the last 3 drafts because of Mr. Deshaun Watson, they're expected to make their first day 1 pick since taking Greg Newsome, 26th overall in 2021. All 5 first and second-round picks under Berry were younger than 22 years old when they were drafted. All 5 also posted a relative athletic score, RAS, you can find that on Twitter, of 8.4 or higher, and a next-gen athleticism score of 79 or higher. Berry used a day 1 or day 2 pick on a defensive back in each of the first 3 drafts in his Browns tenure. We also heard him come out this week and talk about Travis Hunter as predominantly a wide receiver. Mm-hmm. Is this the right pick? All the league has been Travis Hunter. And I love it. I love Hunter. I love Carter too. But I feel like it's going to be a thing where we get like to the season and we look back and we go, yeah, but didn't it always make sense for them just to take Carter and the Giants to take Hunter? Like situationally, team building perspective wise, like divisionally, we talk about Abdul Carter, Miles Garrett, and that division, pass rushing, like that division, AFC North, right?
Yeah.
You're going to go out and get this stud receiver without having a quarterback yet. And then on the Giants side of things, it's like they have the edge rushers already, and they need a cornerback opposite of Deontay Banks, and they need a second weapon with Malik Neighbors. Like, doesn't it make sense that it should potentially be Carter 2, Hunter 3, even though we're hearing the inverse right now?
Yeah, I think what we've learned over these last couple of days is that those red flags about Abdul Carter's personality are a bit bigger than we kind of gave it credit for. Whether he's a prima donna, whatever it is, and it's not like it's going to be the reason why he's a bust. I don't think he will be, but I think they just decided to go with the high character, high motor, big time star. This is the safe pick because our guy, Mike Lombardi, always said this on his show, and it sucks that he's a GM at UNC. I mean, it's great for him, but we miss listening to him every single week on his pod and everything. He used to always say that GMs aren't in the business of wins and losses. They're in the business of keeping their job. Travis Hunter is a pick that keeps your job. Travis Hunter, it just, you're going to sell a shitload of jerseys. He's going to be all over ESPN, NFL Network. He's going to be he's going to be a star in a way that Abdul Carter just can't be. Look at Myles Garrett. He's the most prolific pass rusher of the generation, and he's not really a superstar. I mean, football guys know him, love him, obviously. He's a freak of nature, but Travis Hunter is that crossover superstar that they can get. Now he's going to play both ways. He's coming out saying he's going to play both ways. Andrew Berry said he could play both ways. Fantasy folks rejoice. He's going to play a ton of fucking wide receiver. We love that. So I don't know if it's the right pick schematically because I do just close my eyes and see Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett rushing off edges, and that is petrifying. But this here, I think it's just the right pick as in terms of just getting your superstar, getting the guy that's going to sell the jersey, sell the tickets, and also make the team better.
What do the Steelers have? They have TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and Nick Herbig. The Ravens have always had pass rush, no matter what. And the Bengals just got done having Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson. And now you have the ability to have Carter and Garrett. Like, I get it. 100%. I think Travis Hunter's a great player and probably the best player here. Since 2020, Andrew Berry's traded down 6 times. He's only traded up once. He's obviously had 2. He's not going to trade up. I don't think they're going to trade down either. New York Giants, speaking of which, general manager Joe Shane traded up twice, traded down once since 2020. Shane has selected a defensive player with 60% of his draft picks during his tenure in New York, the highest rate among any general manager over that time frame, which is interesting. The Giants have specifically focused on defensive backs in the first 2 days of the draft under Shane, with a league-leading 6 selections in the top 100 since 2020. This rings almost like a Green Bay Packer stat from them drafting 9 defensive backs in the first 2 rounds over the course of the last 10 years. The Giants are one of 4 teams to spend 4 top 100 picks on wide receivers since 2020 as well, tied with the Jets, Colts, and Raiders. I don't even know if I can name 4 top 100 wide receivers for the Giants. Jalen Hyatt, Malik Neighbors. Was Darius Slayton the top 100 pick?
No, I don't think he was, but Wan'Dale Robinson was.
Darius Slayton draft pick.
Excuse me.
171. Who would have been the 4th? I feel like a dummy now.
Hyatt, Robinson, Neighbors, and since Shane was there, whoever it was must have been a monumental bust.
Darius, newly retired Tony.
Oh, Kadarius Toney. That's right. They drafted him. That's right. Young Joker, whatever he's going by now. In
but
the
he retired this weekend, man.
Yeah, I know. Well, good for him. He should do something else. It's a good idea. Why not?
Honestly, though, he should go play in the UFL. He would tear that league up.
Yeah. No, he's gonna be a rapper, Young Joker, whatever, Little Joker, whatever it is.
All right. Abdul Carter here at 3, or are they going to take this cockamamie trade? And no, not them. That was the Patriots. We'll talk about that in a second. We'll talk about that in a second. Are they going to take Abdul Carter or not?
I don't know. I think I think that what we've seen recently was the general manager. I mean, not the general manager, the owner, the Maras, stepping in and saying, "Listen, motherfucker, you're not getting me a superstar. Abdul Carter isn't gonna do shit for my ticket sales or my anything. You know who will? Shador." And that private workout, kind of last minute, also triggered Abdul Carter to come up here to Foxborough for an official visit. I think the Mars have stepped in. I think we hear Shador Sanders' name called 3rd overall.
Gosh, I don't know. Let me read you off a little stat. This one's not on NFL Draft IQ. So I went through and I looked at the last 4 drafts using the NFL mock draft database. I talked about this on Saturday's show. I looked at the last 4 drafts, NFL mock draft database, 1 week out, the data, 1 week out for the last 4 drafts. So we're talking about last year with Caleb Williams, 2 years ago with Bryce Young, 3 years ago with the Trayvon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson year, and 4 years ago with Trevor Lawrence. So team and player matches with a 30% better popularity in the top 15. When I say 30% better popularity, if you go over to the NFL mock draft database and you see a mock selection, it'll give you like the percentage point. It'll say, this is Caleb Williams is a 99% popularity pick because everybody picked it, right? Trevor Lawrence, 100% popularity pick. Bryce Young, 95%, things like this, right? If you break it down by percentages, there's a group here between 60% and 100% over the last 4 drafts. 13 players in the top 15 of the draft were mocked with a 60% or better popularity rating. 13 in the top 15, the last 4 drafts. 11 were nails. 11 were perfect mocks. Trevor Lawrence, Caleb, Bryce Young, Zach Wilson, Marvin Harrison, Jaden Daniels, Kyle Pitts, Drake May, Jamar Chase, Trevon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson. 2 misses. Joe Alt to Tennessee. They still took tackle, so it was right in the position. Pat Surtain to Dallas was wrong. He was gone by then to Denver. They took Micah Parsons. The next tier is 40% to 59%. 8 guys fit in this tier for the last 4 drafts. 8. 1 player was a hit. J.J. McCarthy to Minnesota. 1. Witherspoon was wrong. Dallas Turner, Mac Jones, Jalen Carter to Seattle, Fashanu to New Orleans. Just a bunch of misses. You drop down to the next tier, it's like 3 for 15. It's not good. So 60% is kind of your bar here.
Okay.
And if you go to the 2025 NFL mock draft database data, because we're now inside of a week, so the week out data, it's 1 week out. You can cross the data 1 week out, 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, etc. The consensus mock draft data for this class is crazy. Cam Ward's at 95% to number 1. Travis Hunter's 81% number 2. Abdul Carter's 73% number 3. Will Campbell's 68% number 4. And Mason Graham is 70% number 5. So all 5 of those guys qualify between the 60% and 100% mark. Then it's a fall off where you have 54, 54, the next 2. And then Jalen Walker also like 58. When I say that to you and you hear that data, I know it's all media driven. All of that is. Everything I just read off is media driven.
Yeah.
But if you look at the last couple of years, 2023, we hit on 5 consensus picks. The year before, we hit on 4 consensus picks. The year before that, 3. The year before that, 5. So usually the consensus is between 3 and 6, right?
Yeah.
Right now, the consensus, the top 8. And I understand you say Shador goes 3 to the Giants. I understand the interview stuff, the private workout stuff, I should say. But they had a private workout with Shook too, and Milroe.
Oh yeah, no, they're doing their homework on quarterback. They're doing their homework.
I don't know I don't know if I've heard enough positively. And again, you could be completely nails right here, but I don't feel like we've heard enough positively from anybody to justify Shador in the top 5.
No, but an owner tells you to get a guy, you get the guy. You get the player. And they had a plan. It was let's punt the ball, let's kick the can down the road, maybe another year or two. Let's get Russ, let's get Jameis, let's get vets, and not worry about quarterback in round 1. Let's take the blue chipper, let's take Abdul Carter. But then something in their communications changed because all of a sudden it was this quarterback tour. And, no shade to Milrow, no shade to Shuck. I have a hard time believing that if Shador believes this is his only ticket inside the top 10, definitely his only ticket in the top 5, he's not going to destroy that workout, that interview. He's going to carry himself better than those other 2 quarterbacks. He is a bona fide superstar, regardless of what we believe his talent is on the field. And since we saw what happened after Saquon Barkley, and it was a rare look, we got to actually see it happen, where ownership was visibly disappointed in losing their superstar. They don't have their superstar. Malik is not that type of superstar. Malik's our guy. We love Malik, but he's not the front of the poster guy. He's not the guy that has the commercials. He's a dog. He's a football player. He's a gridiron warrior. Shador is everything the Mars will want. Notoriety, bloodline, fame, character through the roof. I mean, that has always been his strongest suit, is everything above the shoulders, how he carries himself, his intellect, his football IQ, his all that stuff is Shador's strongest suit. I have a really, really tough time believing that with his dad and everyone in his corner helping him out, getting him ready, that he wouldn't destroy that quarterback showcase in a way that the other 2 simply can't. And here's another thing about Milrow. Milrow cost extra homework because you're not getting him in the second round anymore. It sounds like you're going to have to outbid the Browns, the Saints, the Raiders, whoever jumps back in around 1 for Milrow. That seems like the price now. And I think you take all those factors, and it just leads me down the path that it's Shador at 3.
What if I told you that the way I read it is that they're picking at 34, and that the theory would be you take the better player in Carter at 3, and you have your insurance in Shuck or Milrow at 34, but that you try to trade up from 34 to the teens to get the Shador.
That's absolutely possible.
If you miss, you just sit back and you sort of get cucked, and you got to take Shuck or Milrow, but you shoot the dart that direction instead of spending that draft capital. You get the 2 for 1 instead of saying, all right, let's take Shador here and then try to trade back up and get a, I don't know if you can get a Michael Williams, and I don't know if it doesn't matter at that point, right? Because the talent level's different and it's not really a need for you.
I think that's the best way to go about it. I think drafting Abdul Carter and trading up or sitting back, because we all thought Will Levis was going to be a first-round pick. He didn't go to the first pick in the second round. So I'm not saying that we're going to be 100% right. And if I was running the show, which I'm not, I probably would try to thread the needle. But we all have jobs. We all have bosses. We all have expectations and deadlines and standards to meet. And the ownership group has been breathing down this general manager and head coach tandem for over a year now. And at what point is he just going to say, I'm sick of dancing with the devil. I'm going to get the guy, and this will be my last hurrah? It just feels like to me now with the Saints news, and you're not getting Shador if you don't take him at 3. So if he's your guy, you got to take him. Now, if you want to dance the dance with 42-year-old Shuck or trade up or maybe get lucky with Milrow, you can thread the needle. You can pitch a perfect game. It has happened. But if Shador left that private workout with ownership saying, that's my guy, these other guys have no fucking say in what they're going to do.
That's true. That's true. All right, let's talk about number 4 then. The New England Patriots and their de facto GM, Elliott Wolf, with new coach Mike Vrabel. In Wolf's first year as a general manager this past year. He spent 7 of 8 draft picks on the offensive side of the football and double dipped 3 times. Drake May, Joe Milton at quarterback, Jalen Polk, Javon Baker at wide receiver, Caden Wallace, and Layden Robinson on the offensive line. The thought here, and we talked about the mock draft database popularity, has been Will Campbell. It's been left tackle. Obviously, if a Carter or a Hunter falls, that is the layup. It's the smash for fantasy purposes to tout Travis Hunter there. And it's a smash for Abdul Carter to go there, play opposite of Harold Landry with Milton Williams, the new defensive tackle. Is it going to be left tackle? Will Campbell, Kelvin, Simmons, whatever. It doesn't really matter. It looks like it's going to be Campbell, but we've been shocked before. The J.C. Latham stuff didn't come in till late. We've seen Clellan Fail go for before. Everything leans towards Campbell. We've heard stuff behind the scenes that Campbell's aced some interviews with Vrabel. Or if Carter falls here, do you buy into this cockamamie trade that was leaked this last week about if Carter falls to 4, that the Eagles would offer A.J. Brown the 32nd overall pick and the 2026 second to come up to 4 to get Carter?
I mean, if I'm the Patriots, you take that.
You would take Brown 32nd. You would do that.
Yeah, I would absolutely do that if I'm the Patriots because that's curing 2 ills. Diggs and Brown it's a unbelievable wide receiver tandem. I don't think that's happening because those trades just don't happen. They don't happen. Player
but actually stupid is what I thought. I was like, wow, that is.
Roseman's not doing that. He's not getting too crazy. And Abdul Carter has only taken 4 visits. It's the top 4 picks. He didn't even take a top 4. He didn't even take a Patriots visit until his agent urged him to because it sounds like he's going to be there. From my intel up here in New England, it's Carter, it's Campbell, and there have been whispers of a trade that they would trade back. They're one of the most, prime teams to trade back. And there are scenarios here where Carter or Shador is enough for them to leverage a pretty worthwhile trade. Move back to 9 with the Saints. Move back to 8 with the Panthers. Panthers have been pretty vocal about wanting to trade back, so I doubt it's them. But there are candidates to move back with. And here's why. Albert Breer, is as dialed in as there is in New England and in the NFL, around those circles. He made a statement that he believes Vrabel's guy in his heart of hearts is Jalen Walker. That Vrabel believes if Jalen Walker is on this team, what he will be able to do with him schematically, what his skill sets allow for, would be massive for the development of this franchise. So if he believes he can get another second and then have, Jalen Walker in the first, 2 seconds, 2/3, that is how you can expedite a rebuild. So I think that is on the table as long as they can find a dance partner because Abdul Carter, he's great. I think he's going to be a very good NFL player. And I think the Patriots will, if he's there, I think that's what they do. But there is going to be that inkling of a trade because if Shador goes 3, or if he doesn't, someone might want to trade up. But if he does go 3, that also allows them to then leverage Jackson Dart. Like the run started early, people. You wanted a quarterback. You can't wait until the end of the first now because 2 are already off the board. All it takes is the Saints to go, I want Dart. And if you believe McShay, which I know both of us do, we both listen to Todd McShay. We both believe in his work and in his what do you call it? His presence in the NFL, his characteristics, his reputation is what I'm looking for. He believes that there are some fans of Dart in the Jets organization. He believes there are some fans of Dart in the Raiders organization. That allows the Patriots to trade back potentially. But for me, those are the 3 options. It's Carter, it's Campbell, it's trade back. And it seems like if they don't find a dance partner, it's going to be Carter or Campbell.
Speaking of multiple third-round picks, the Jacksonville Jaguars also have 2 third-round picks. They're picking at 5 with their brand new general manager, James Gladstone, who came to the Jags by way of the Rams. He most recently served as the director of scouting strategy the last 2 seasons under Les Snead with the Rams. The Jags are the only team in the league not to have any top 30 visits scheduled ahead of the 2025 draft. Gladstone explained the decision as wanting to avoid implicit bias that could creep up and trust his staff's scouting process. Liam Cohen, the new coach, spent 2 seasons at Kentucky before spending the last season in Tampa. Some of the Jags reporting that I've read and diagnosed has been basically it's most likely going to be Graham. If Will Campbell's there, it could be Campbell, and it would not be a complete shock if it was Ashton Jeanty, because Ashton Jeanty, per reports, would be the best thing for Trevor Lawrence in the first year with Liam Cohen.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Gladstone seems too smart for that. Especially sitting front row and how the Rams absolutely bent the 2024 draft over. And that is why, for me, the pick at 5 has always been Jalen Walker.
Jalen Walker? Wait.
It's always been Jalen Walker for me.
Hold up. What?
Yeah, that's the pick at 5 for me. It's been that, and it's going to continue to be that.
Why?
He's a devastating, explosive pass rusher. Now, if Carter's there, obviously. But if he's not, I think it's Jalen Walker. He's the Jared Verse.
They have Trevon Walker, though, and they have Josh.
Trevon Walker on the inside, it creates an Eagles-like defensive front and a nasty, vicious attack at quarterbacks with Walker, who isn't the pin your ears back type pass rusher. Hines Allen is. But then you add a guy like Jalen Walker, who could then play a little bit Mike, a little bit pass rusher, be an absolute chess piece on the board. He feels like the difference maker on defense. And Gladstone, to me, would be smart to replicate the process that the Rams did last year, getting 2 defensive not defensive linemen, but defensive front 7 type guys, pass rusher ability guys. And I think they have their Fiske type player in Walker extended. And now, Trayvon Walker. And the other Walker, Jalen Walker, adds that pin your ears back Jared Verse type. It's been my pick. I'm gonna stick to it. I think Mason Graham, to me, I like Mason Graham. I think he could be devastating in the middle. Something in my gut tells me it's not him though. It's a gut thing. It's not a practical thing. It's a gut thing.
Wow, I didn't expect that come from you. I mean, the chalk has been Mason Graham the whole time until like about a month ago. There was some the Jalen Walker stuff crept in, and then of late, the Ashton Jeanty stuff has crept in. The mock draft popularity, like I said before, is at 70% for Mason Graham. That's the last guy above 60% before the drop off here. As we go into pick 6.
Yeah, the masses believe it's Graham. But our guys, the guys that we look up to, the guys that we aspire to be, the Daniel Jeremiahs, the Todd McShays, they don't have Mason Graham going 5 overall in their latest mocks. They got Jalen Walker going 5 overall. That's all I'll say.
The NFL.com stuff, the only person that has had Jalen Walker has been Daniel Jeremiah on March 18th. Everybody else has been Membu, Graham, Warren, and Graham. I don't understand the Membu thing or the Warren thing, but
the Warren thing is
the most plugged in out of all of them.
I mean, there's a lot of false prophets, and there's always a prophet. Who are you going to listen to? And I no shade to anybody else, but we all know who's the brass tacks best at this game.
It's DJ. Raiders. Picking at 6. I think we're like 30 minutes in and we're at pick 6. So we're doing great. Phenomenal timing per usual. Looking at the most recent mocks for the Raiders, Chad Reuter had the latest mock over at NFL.com. It was Shedeur Sanders. Before that, we had Jeanty, Jalen Walker, Jeanty, Genty, the running back from Boise State. John Spytek is the general manager for the Las Vegas Raiders. It sounds like Tom Brady, though, recent part owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, has a lot of say in potentially this whole situation, according to sources. New Raiders GM John Spytek has spent time with 5 different NFL teams dating back to 2004, most recently with the Bucs the last 2 years. And Pete Carroll hasn't been in the league since 2023. Chip Kelly comes to the Raiders by way of the Ohio State Buckeyes. I've talked about this stat before, but during Spytek's tenure and in Tampa and during Pete Carroll's entire tenure in Seattle, of course, Spytek was not the GM, but he was the assistant, and he had a lot of high-end roles in Tampa for 8 years. Both of their tenures, one single skill player was drafted in round 1 by the Seattle Seahawks with Pete or Tampa under Jason Light / Spytek, and that was Rashad Penny, Mountain West running back, San Diego State, 2,500-yard rusher, prolific. People recently think he sucks because he got hurt, and he does suck now, but he didn't suck when he came out, and that's why he was a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Pete
No,
Carroll.
you're right.
Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks took him. That's the only skill position, running back, receiver, or tight end, that has been drafted by either of these guys. And recently, it feels like it's been pretty much directly Genty. Talking to one source in Las Vegas, where did it go? Kind of broke the tiers down, being if Graham is there, that's the pick. So basically, the way we've talked through this whole mock this far is you brought up the idea of Shador at 3. If that happens, the Patriots go probably Carter at 4. And then at 5, you talked about Jalen Walker. In this situation, Mason Graham falls. And John Spytek, Michigan grad, Tom Brady, Michigan grad, and that defensive line in Las Vegas right now, Christian Wilkins, Malcolm Kuntz, Max Crosby, he could be the 4th that makes that defensive line disgusting. They have Mason Graham in the top of their conversation. Tier 2, they have Genty in their tier 2. A sleeper pick here would be Will Johnson, but he did not run, and that was a massive flag for a lot of teams, and he didn't run, so it's still a flag for a lot of teams because they know he's a low 4.55 guy. Are you team Genty here, or are you team this is a wild card?
It's a wild card. I don't believe it's Genty. I think it's Graham. I think if Graham falls, this is the floor. I think he makes a lot of sense. You mentioned the ties to Michigan, which I didn't even think of. But I think that Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly, I just don't know why you would invest this capital in a running back knowing where you sit in round 2 and round 3. I mean, would you rather have Mason Graham and Travion or Genty and TJ Sanders? I think they'd rather have Graham and Travion. I think they'd rather have Graham and Quinshawn. I think they'd rather go Graham, a cornerback, and maybe Caleb Johnson in the 3rd. I think I don't see schematically if you're trying to build a winner, I don't see why they go with Genty. I don't, but it seems like the world won't stop yelling that Genty's a 6th pick.
They need a running back, but I've always thought Quinshawn in the 2nd made a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Me too. I agree.
And you go Membu in the 1st round, but if you put that out there, I think that's the most viewed show or most viewed episode on the Draft Ranking show on YouTube right now is the Raiders 7-round mock draft, and it is just wrong. When I bring up Armand Membu at right tackle, so I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm. I think we're going to look back and maybe the Raiders are going to regret that. Let's talk about the Jets quick. The Jets are picking 7th overall. Darren Muge is their new general manager this year. He spent 13 seasons with the Broncos under George Patton the last 3. Rick Spielman's now a senior personnel advisor. He spent time with George Payton in Minnesota. Payton worked underneath him while he was the GM. The Jets have selected an offensive and defensive lineman in the 1st round in 6 consecutive drafts dating back to 2019. Last year, it took Olu Fashanu. The year before that, Will McDonald. The year before that, Jermaine Johnson. The year before that, Elijah Vera Tucker. Before that, Mekhi Becton. Before that, Quinnen Williams. So, I think Membu makes a lot of sense. Tyler Warren has been the flat circle thought here for the Jets. Feels like a weird spot, though. They got Justin Fields in there. They got Fashanu to play left. Fashanu could also play right if they wanted to go left, if Campbell fell or something like this. Don't really know what to make of the whole Jets situation. Membu is the most popular pick right now in mock draft database. It's only at 54%, though. So if we're talking about thresholds, he's in the 50% threshold, which is a 1 for 8 hit rate over the course of the last 4 drafts. What is your thoughts here for the Jets? I don't have a ton, to be honest with you.
Me neither. I think it's just we could say this. I think it's Campbell, Membu, or Warren. That seems like the picks. It feels like they're big fans of Warren. They don't have a tight end in the building. Like looking at their depth chart, there's no tight end of note in the building. And I do believe Tyler Warren and his skill sets would specifically help a quarterback like Justin Fields.
Let's go to the team that has been conversed a metric shit ton. The Carolina Panthers, which if there was one spot that's had one of the most consensus mock draft selections the last 2 months, it's been the Panthers with Jalen Walker. And I reached out to a source around the Panthers and I said, this Jalen Walker thing doesn't feel like it makes any sense at all. And he said, if anybody's telling you that they know who the Panthers are picking, they're wrong, because I don't think the Panthers know who they're picking.
Yeah.
And to your merit, you would say Jalen Walker is going to be gone. And the thought that I have, and I tweeted it out, which is funny because if I don't know if you remember this or not, but I made a tweet like about maybe a month and a half ago. I feel like we talked about it probably on a show about Teteroa McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona. And my first tweet this week was kind of surprised we've made it this far with not a lot of Tetero McMillan conversation at number 8. When you look at Jalen Coker, who has 46 career targets, Leggett has 84 career targets, Adam Thielen's 35 years old, David Moore has 66 targets in the last 4 years, and then after that, it's like Dax Milne, Dan Chisna, Bryson Tremaine, TJ Luther, guys that nobody knows. I know Chisna's a special teamer guy, but points still taken there. And I said, I understand the sentiment that the Panthers will draft all defense this year, but what if they don't? And they take, a receiver first to help Bryce Young. And everyone's like, Tet's not a top 10 graded player. Tet's not top 10 player. Top Tet. And so I went in there and all I did is I took my tweet from March 17th, which coincidentally, now that I'm looking at it, was 1 month ago exactly. And I quote tweeted it into this thread. And I said, at my mentions, because the tweet was Tetero McMillan's a very good receiver. However, he's not a top 10 draft pick, nor should he be viewed that way by the media. I said, if New England, Las Vegas, or Jacksonville take him, it's a bad pick.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember right, that tweet I got killed for as well in the comments saying, you're wrong. He's a top 10 pick. So it's a full circle thing here where I once said he's not top 10 pick. I got killed for it. Now I'm saying, yeah, but the Panthers, it does make sense, even though I know he's not a top 10 pick. And everyone's like, he's not a top 10 pick. So Panthers it's been a lot of Jalen Walker conversation. I don't buy it. I feel like if it's Jalen Walker, there should be some Mykel Williams conversation here, but Mykel Williams has been hurt, hasn't had a lot of production, and Dan Morgan has stressed production. And that leads me to Tetero McMillan.
I think they could go 10, but it ain't going to be at 8. I think it'd be a trade back. I think this team's primed to trade back. Dan Morgan's been very vocal about his desires to trade back. And I had this real maniacal thought. Shout out to Alex Dunlap. Real maniacal thought of who could potentially trade up and what it would cost. And I have this thought that I'm not going to let go. I don't know if it happens. Predicting trades, I think, is goofy because it's so hard to be right about. Doesn't it make all the sense in the world for the Denver Broncos to jump in here and get Ginty?
I mean, if he's available.
If he's available here at 8, they need to get in front of the Saints, Bears, Cowboys. All of those teams theoretically are going to be hot and bothered by these running backs, specifically Ginty. And Sean Payton will not stop talking about running backs. Now, he could stay at 20 and get one, no doubt. But does he want to get one, or does he want to get the one in the class?
Well, what if I told you that a year ago, Ben Albright he's like the Nick Underhill of Denver. He's a Bronco insider. And this weekend he went off on a little bit of a run, like a tangent, because he did this a year ago, but he made like a cryptic tweet that had like every sentence of like a 5-paragraph tweet started with the first letter BONIX, and he spelt out the pick in his tweet at the start of every paragraph, right? And
Yep.
he's been going off on this thing this weekend about running back, and he brought up, I don't know if Henderson goes 10 or not. I just know he's got a very good relationship with the Bears, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I wonder, my brain went to what, I don't know. I guess it sort of broke my brain,
Mm-hmm.
because when you think about it, Henderson, obviously, if you compare profiles from Jahmyr Gibbs in college, he obviously spent a couple of years at Georgia Tech. Then he transfers to Bama. So he played 3 full seasons, 2,100 yards, 5.6 on the ground, 15 touchdowns, 104 receptions. Travion was supposed to come out last year, so that would have been through 3 seasons. He stayed for 1 extra year, and he's had 77 receptions, so he hasn't been quite as prolific in the receiving game, though he is a dynamo. He had 853 receiving yards, 1,200 for Jahmyr Gibbs, 11.7 per for Gibbs, 11.1 per for Henderson. I think he's a better pure runner than Gibbs. I hadn't thought about this process at all. And it makes me wonder, because the 2 guys that Sean Payton spent first round picks on at running back was Mark Ingram and Reggie Bush. And I don't think Reggie Bush is that far out of a comp for Travion Henderson.
I think that's a great landing spot for sure. But we'll talk about that when we get to the Broncos. But I do agree. I mean, they could sit back and get Henderson. That would be awesome. It would be great for them.
But you're saying that they move up to 8 to get Genty because he falls.
I think if Ginty is here in this range, teams like the Broncos are gonna start getting a little antsy, because clearly the NFL views Ginty as a special player because he hasn't done anything. He hasn't done anything at all. And that usually means that the NFL is like, don't worry about it. You're not going to fall far. And at this point, it seems like I'm coming around on the Bears taking a running back in round 1. The Saints could potentially take a running back after, Kellen Moore just saw a running back literally be the difference of them winning a Super Bowl. And then, of course, the Cowboys at 12. Those 3 landing spots in 4 draft selections are worth jumping ahead of. Now, will they do that? I don't know. It's probably going to cost them their first, second, and next year's second. So it's a pretty steep price for running back. But if we know anything about Sean Payton, he don't give a fuck. He's going to do what he wants to do and what he believes is best for the team. And he's did it with Randy Gregory when he just cut him out of nowhere. He did it with Russell Wilson when he cut him, eating $85 million. He did it last year, taking Bo Nix in the top 12. He doesn't care. If he believes that his guy is going to help his team, he will take him. He will move up to get him. So that's just been my inkling. That's been my thoughts. But I think here, the Panthers, I think they're I'm not going to put it above 50%, but damn near 50% chance they trade back.
Speaking of Sean Payton and trading up, he was a part of a lot of this trade up from the New Orleans Saints, who are picking at 9. Mickey Loomis has been the GM there since 2002, and he's made 20 trades since 2002. All 20 were trade ups for the New Orleans Saints. The last time the Saints traded down during a draft was 1997. Since 2011, the Saints have traded up during the draft 20 times compared to 0 trade downs in that span, like I said. And dating back to 2018, the Saints have drafted an offensive or defensive lineman with 6 of their last 7 first-round selections. And according to Cleveland Analytics, the Saints have drafted just 1 non-quarterback since 2019 with a relative athletic score of less than 7.5. That was Christian Boyd out of Northern Iowa in 2024. Sounds like, based on the previous couple of picks, you are in quarterback conversation here. Nick Underhill, I did some listening to him this last week. Obviously, they had Shedeur Standard, they had Jackson Dart, they did Tyler Shook, who they did intensive research on. Underhill thinks that the rebuild is now. They did pay Derek Carr a ton of money, so they're probably not going to cut him. He's probably just going to be on the roster for the year, even though he's not going to be ready, it sounds like, by week 1. The Saints knew everything about Carr until last week. We didn't know. Now we all do know that he's going to have probably some surgery here. Underhill talked about cornerback in the second round, cornerback, and labeled Trey Amos and Savon Ravel from East Carolina as potential targets. He said Shador visited Pittsburgh. He doesn't know his range. He would be surprised if they took Shador. He said Shook is gone in the first round, and Shook going before Dart would not shock him, which shocked me. Him saying
That
that.
would be ridiculous. That would
And
be a
this is all
monumental failure.
this is all from the Saints' number one beat reporter,
Yeah.
Nick Underhill. He said Shook gone by 50 or in round one, and then Shook before Dart would not shock him. With all that into conversation, we've heard other stuff that come out that would lead us to believe that Shador's not their favorite player amongst these three, and that it's probably Dart.
Mm-hmm.
So at 9, I think it's a true wild card. Shador currently is the mock draft favorite, but it's only at 38%, so it's extremely low in comparison to everybody above him. Everybody above him is obviously 50% plus. I've seen Shamar Stewart here. I've seen Michael Williams here. The mock drafts on NFL.com have Dart, Jahad Campbell, Will Campbell. I feel like I've seen some Tet McMillan here. I've seen some cornerback, whether it's Will Johnson or Jahdae Barron. I've seen literally about everything with the Saints.
Yeah. Yep.
And they never trade down. I don't know. This is the one where I feel maybe the most out of pocket in the top 10 as far as what I'm going to put in here. Like I know what I'm going to do at 10, but I don't know what I'm going to do at 9 for my final mock draft. So I think today, and I'll just let you go from here, but I think today, if I had like a minute and I was like, all right, I got to turn the mock draft in 1 minute, I got to send the email at 9 to the Saints. I feel like I might put Shamar Stewart, the edge rusher from A&M.
Shamar Stewart. I mean, we have been, and you and I have been talking mock drafts and NFL drafts for years now, and every year we think, well, don't they have to get the Cam Jordan replacement? Don't they have to get the Cam Jordan replacement? So it makes sense. I think that absolutely makes sense. Getting a big, talented, tradey type edge rusher like a Stewart to come in and be on that defensive line. I think with the retirement of Ramshack, however the hell you say his name,
Membu too, yeah.
it could be a lineman like Membu. But I think for me, this is how you tell me where Shador goes, and if you tell me it's 3 overall, I think they get very aggressive for Jackson Dart. I don't think that they allow that to happen. If he doesn't, and there's only one quarterback off the board here at pick 9, I think they go with a Shamar Stewart and then try to do the discount double check and trade back up because they are one of these teams with 2 third-round picks. It's them, the Giants, the Raiders, that could all make a play back into first round territory to get a quarterback. And I think for them, it's Dart. I think if they want to sit and wait, it could be a Shuck. But if they're not, I think it's Dart. And I think if Shador's off the board at 3, you could pencil in Jackson Dart here at 9.
I don't hate that. I think I'm following your merit that if Shador's gone, then somebody gets aggressive. I think I'm fully on board with that. As soon as the second quarterback goes, we could see the third and the fourth come within minutes, within selections. So I follow that. But again, like I said, I think I'm closer to the Shamar and Membu thing. If they're really in this rebuild mode, I would buy that. And I guess they could potentially go Spencer Rattler. Again, PSA, Arch Manning is not going to be in next year's draft.
He won't be. And I'm sick. Can we just say this real quick?
I've said it on multiple shows, dude, and people don't listen.
People don't listen, but we're going to say it again. He is not coming out next year. His uncles played 4 years in college. They've all been crazy vocal about the importance of learning in college and not in the NFL. He's going to play with Sark for more than one season. He hasn't played with Sark yet. He's been on the sidelines learning behind Quinn Ewers. He's not coming out in 26 people. He's not.
They want him to have 30 starts. It's quite literally impossible to have 30 starts in one season. I think he's got 2 or 3 at this point. So if they play 16 and go to the national championship or 17, that'll get him to 20. He's not.
That's getting less than 30, Cody.
Still less than 30. All right, so Saints are going to ship it. 10th overall. And Maddie, it's been 50 minutes. We're going to lock it here. We're going to do number 10 with the Bears, and then we're each going to pick one team from 11 to 32 on the tendency charts, and we'll talk about them, and then we're going to get out of here because we're going to be here for 3 hours if we don't. And we're recording this breaking news Easter weekend, so we got a little ahead, and Maddie's got a family, and I got to pack because I got to get down to Tampa. So 10th overall, the Chicago Bears with general manager Mr. Ryan Poles. He's traded down 5 times, traded up twice since 2022. Each of the Bears draft classes under Ryan Poles have ranked among the top 15 in the NFL in average athleticism scores, according to Next Gen Stats, dating back to 2022. The Bears 2024 class ranks as the most productive draft class by average Next Gen Stats production score, 84.9 over the last 20 seasons. What that means is he drafts players with a shit ton of production. AKA production is Ashton Genty having 2,000 rushing yards, right? That's production. Not having production, it'd be like Shamar Stewart having 4.5 sacks in 3 seasons.
Yeah.
That's the opposite of production, for people that don't know what that means. I would assume most of you do. Poles has used 6 of his 7 non-quarterback top 65 picks on prospects with a relative athleticism score of 9.2 or higher. I have not broken down all of this information, but I feel like we could probably narrow this thing down pretty tight if we look at a production score and we looked at an athleticism score with the Chicago Bears. Some of the most mocked selection here for the Bears: Will Campbell from Chad Reuter on the 18th of April, Tyler Warren, Ashton Genty, Omarion Hampton, Will Campbell, Jalen Walker, It's like literally all over the board. Personally, I think Campbell's gone at this point, and I think Kelvin Banks will continue to be a top 10 pick. It'll be the one thing that like very few people get, I think, in this huddle report this year is Kelvin Banks is a top 10 selection. And I'm happy to announce I will be one of those people that has Kelvin Banks in the top 10 and hopefully hits the match here with number 10 overall with the Chicago Bears.
This is a tale of two sides. On one side, it's what I would do, what I think is best for this team, and that is Kelvin Banks, Kelvin Banks, Kelvin Banks. Left tackle, you put him in. You don't have to worry about it. This whole kick him inside, kick him outside, it's so goofy to me. I don't see why this guy isn't reflected as a top 10 offensive tackle. I get some of I get what people are saying about him in his profile, but this is a guy that was in conversation to be the first overall draft pick a year ago. First overall type tackle. I don't believe he did anything to push the scouts away and not be a very coveted pick. I would take Kelvin Banks. What I think they're going to do, though, is I think it's Genty or Hampton. That's what I think they're going to do.
I hope it's Hampton.
It probably would be Hampton because I don't think Genty's there at 10. I just don't think he's there. And I think Hampton, if you want to talk about Raz in production, they meet right there at the pinnacle. That guy has been mega productive, and he was a mega Raz score freak. And the more and more that we kind of get closer and closer to the draft, the more and more I hear about teams salivating over Hampton. And I think he's a lock for the first round. And I think I'm damn near I think he's a top half of first round type pick.
I like that. All right. Genty, Hampton, Banks. Feels like the lean there. I know they do have Braxton Jones and Kieran Amegadeje from Yale at the left tackle spot, but you could never not improve that offensive line, which they've done a lot of this offseason. The one team I'm going to talk about here outside the top 10 is our guy Monty Ossenfort, who's been the GM for the Cardinals since 2023. Hopefully I didn't snipe you there.
I mean, I always was going to talk about Monty, but we could, as long as he's being talked about, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good, brother.
So since 2023, he's traded up once, traded down 5 times. Remember, he did the okie doke up, down, or down, up boomerang thing a couple years ago to get Paris Johnson. Second-year general manager Monty Ossenfort was the director of player personnel for the Titans for a couple of years, from 2020 to 2022. The Cardinals made a league-high 11 picks on day 1 and day 2 over the last 2 years, which they've needed to, obviously. Out of Austin Force 21 draft picks, the Cardinals have selected 19 prospects from Power 5 schools. The only 2 picks from non-Power 5 schools was Houston's quarterback Clayton Tune. Houston moved to the Big 12 months after he was drafted. And UAB's Tejuan Palmer. Tejuan Palmer. I don't know if that's how you say that, but it sounds fantastic. A 6th-round wide receiver in 2024. Mock draft selections for the Arizona Cardinals have been Calvin Banks, Kenneth Grant, Tyler Booker, the guard from Alabama, Jahdae Barron, the corner from Texas, Calvin Banks from Texas, Walter Nolan from Ole Miss, Gray Zabel from North Dakota State. A literal, piece here, piece there, piece here, piece there. Everything. Now, the Cardinals select at pick 16. Here's my thought, and here's why I bring up Monty and the Cardinals. Because multiple needs. You can tell yourself a story that their biggest need is potentially offensive line. They could go guard. They could go right tackle. Damn.
You can't completely count out Tyler Booker here.
You can't count out Tyler Booker. But wait where I'm going here.
Okay.
They add nose tackle and D tackle Calais Campbell and Delvin Tomlinson. They added Josh Sweat, a outside linebacker. Right now, their left outside linebacker they traded for from Denver was Baron Browning. Very good athlete. Zaven Collins also there. Drafted Darius Robinson last year from Missouri, was injured a lot. They drafted Max Melton, the cornerback, in the 2nd round this last year. Sean Murphy Bunting, they added in free agency last year. This team has good depth, but it needs top-end talent. The direction I'm going with the Arizona Cardinals right now is a double dip. They pick at 16 and they pick at 47. They don't have a lot of picks this year. They have 6 picks to be exact. 1 first, 1 second, 1 third, 1 fourth, a 5th, and a 7th. In 2026, they have a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, all of their regular selections. My take is that they take that 2nd this year at 47 and a future pick, a 2nd or 3rd, and they try to get back into round 1, and they try to double dip. They try to double dip and get an offensive lineman and a corner. So it's either a Booker and a Will Johnson, or a Gray Zabel and a Jahdae Barron. Something I want to see a 2-pack here. I want to see Monty 2-pack this thing again. For those listening at home, sorry. I want to see Monty, put him on the table, drag him all the way across the stage in Green Bay and say, I am in the top 5 conversation for best general manager in football, because he is.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. I think that'd be great. He has had multiple 1st-round picks a number of times in his tenure. He might just get used to the feeling. He might just be like, you know what? I love this day 1 stuff, guys. I don't really want to fuck around with day 2. I like it. I think that too, if he smells blood in the water in the NFC West, which he should, that is the type of move, because I do think that they could really use both of those positions in a massive, massive way. I think that makes a lot of sense.
All right, who's your team?
I want to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. General manager Omar Khan, who's been there since 2023. The tendencies here, reading through it, he served as the Steelers front office since 2001. So he's been there for a while. We know that the Steelers love continuity. They don't like onboarding new people. They haven't done that much over their history when you really look at it. But he was promoted in 2023. Khan's 2 years as the team's primary draft day decision maker. The Chiefs have made 14 picks, 13 of which come from a Power 5 school. The 2 combined classes have had an average RAS score of 9.1, with every one of their picks being higher than 7.4. They like athletes. They like big-time programs, and their top 30 visits, well, they just confirm that that's the case. But the reason why I want to talk about the Steelers is because of all the 1st-round selections, I think that the Steelers have the most fun day ahead of them. I think that what they can do, what they need to do, what they're looking to do, there's just so many irons in the fire for this franchise. Do they want to go quarterback? Do they have Aaron Rodgers? Aaron Rodgers is still dicking around with something. Pat McAfee show last week didn't say anything about where he's signing. They haven't signed him. They haven't. There's no talk about it. They're still bumping up Mason Rudolph. Everyone thought, hey, you could probably get a quarterback. at 20. I don't know. I don't know if they'll really get it at 21 now. I don't know because it seems like Shador, Dart, and Ward will all be off the board. Does Milrow come into play here at 21? I think it's a strong possibility. They've been bullied by Lamar Jackson now for a number of years. Maybe they want their version of that, a guy that can sit back and learn behind, Arthur Smith and that offense and kind of figure it out. Not in year one. It's possible. They don't have a second round pick, so they might trade back. Their possibilities are endless. But when you look at their visits, I'm scouring through the visits. They're one of the most. They used 28 of their 30 visits, and they're all big time programs. They're all names that you all recognize. But what I keep seeing in this, and it's my gut talking to me now, Cody. When I look at these 30 visits, they fancy themselves a running back. They've brought in a number of running backs, including the big dog, Omarion Hampton. I wouldn't rule out them going running back in round one, having them take Omarion if he's there, Travion if he's there. But I definitely believe they're taking one within their first 3 days, in the first 2 days, first 3 rounds. Because they've also brought in Tootin. They've also brought in Blue. They've brought in Gordon, Ollie Gordon. And I know you're going to back me on this. Folks, Ollie Gordon's going higher than you realize in the NFL draft. He might. I think there's a real chance he's the 6th running back off the board. So I just wanted to say that. But I wanted to bring up the Steelers because I have no fucking clue what they're going to do. No clue. They don't have a second round pick. They trade it for DK, so they could trade back. They could trade up if they want to get aggressive for a quarterback. I don't know what they're going to do, but it is going to be fun to watch what they do over this next few days of the NFL draft.
Omarion Hampton would be the flat circle play.
Omarion, the most flat circle play in this range is Hampton, 21 to the Steelers, Henderson, 22 to the Chargers. But I don't think they'll have that ability because the Broncos are right there at 20. And I've talked enough about the Broncos. I'm not going to bring them up. That's why I didn't bring them up. But I like this range. I think this range, I'll say this. I think from where you brought in the Cardinals at 17, I think, or at 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. That's going to be my favorite part of the draft. I think it's going to be the most entertaining because the Seattle Seahawks, they're kind of trading around. They might want to trade back. Do they take somebody? It seems like the Buccaneers are the perfect spot to trade out of round one to allow a team like the Browns, the Saints, the Raiders, the Giants to move back into round one and get a front of the Steelers. Because what we have heard is if Shador's somehow there at 21, Shador's going to be a Steeler. They love him there. And I think that is a great fit. But I don't think they have the bullets to move up. But I just think that range, and it all centers around the Steelers, that range is going to be so much fun.
I do think corner is a sleeper pick here. Darius Slay is like 612 years old, technically starting at corner. I think corner is a sleeper pick here.
It is.
But I think if you really looked at this from a just do the damn thing, plug it in, I think we got to first off give flowers to Omar Khan, Mike T, the whole staff in Pittsburgh, because if you look at their starting lineup right now, and I was doing this looking just at like the last 2 years drafts, the starting offensive line, 2023 first round pick, Broderick Jones. Center, Zach Frazier, second round pick, 2024. Starting right tackle, first round pick, 2024, Troy Fatanu. Starting right guard, Mason McCormick, fourth round pick, South Dakota State, right guard. And then the left guard is Isaac Siamalo, who's a free agent they got from Philly. So 4 guys from the last 2 draft cycles at the offensive line. And they seem happy with them.
Mm-hmm.
They seem happy with them. And it feels like if that's right, you could potentially just plug in here's the thing. The one thing I'll say about Jackson Dart, and I've talked about it a lot through the last 4 months, the Lane Kiffin offense was just different in college. A lot of the stuff was schemed, and he ran it very well. But here's the thing, man. If you walk into Pittsburgh is the most well-oiled, historically, the most well-oiled program in the history of football, the NFL. And they now have 2 sickos at wide receiver with some pretty sick gadget guys in like Roman and Calvin and stuff. They got a tight end, Pat Frymuth. They got an offensive line they love. They got a great coach with a great defense. And you draft like a Jackson Dart at 21, and then you come back in the 3rd or the 4th round and you get yourself a, Ollie Gordon, a Damian
DJ
Martinez,
Dick.
some big body donk that can play with Kenny Gainwell and Jalen Warren, and you got yourself a goddamn football team.
Oh yeah, they're gonna be a football team. They're gonna be a good football team. I mean, they they just wake up every year and hover around 10 wins. That's what they do.
All right, there we go. We went through the top 10 tendencies. You can go find the rest if you want to go read them over at NFL.com. Draft IQ. It's a great tool built by our guy, Mike Band, formerly of Roster Watch. It's been the draft ranking show. That's Matty Cume at Matty Cume on X. You can go find all of his stuff over at SouthHarmonFF.com, including his latest NFL mock draft. It's officially draft week. Matty, you guys got a show on this at the end of the week, or what do you guys got planned for the draft? What do you got for coverage?
Yeah, I mean, South Harmon's got you covered all 3 days. We're gonna be live streaming the first round, the second, third round, the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round. So it's gonna be a hell of a lot of fun. I am a little sad though. This will be the first time in 3 years you and I haven't had a show together on draft night. But I won't be watching you guys because I'll be doing my own. But I'm a big fan of what you do, Cody, specifically, and I know you'll kill it. If no one else will, you'll kill it.
You'll kill it too. We'll both crush it. Hopefully the fans, the great people that tap into the draft ranking show will maybe steal their kid's iPad and they can put two iPads side by side and they can watch the South Harmon stream and then they can watch a stream that I'm on. I'll be on the Player Profiler stream with Alex Dunlap and everybody from the Player Profiler team will be down there in Tampa. So again, 2 streams, 2 iPads, South Harmon, Player Profiler, tap in, lock in. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all and we'll see you on the next one. It's going to be a great NFL draft, everybody. Enjoy it.
Peace.